What if one day a demon gets kicked out of the demon army and starts living with humans? In his 30s, Dariel had something similar happen to him. Want to know what happens next? Let's find out. It's a story of a guy named Dariel. He is summoned by a new king of demons named Bashverza, who happens to be his adopted brother. The king calls him in front of 3 other kings. They tell him he is no longer part of the army because they think he's incapable and unworthy of being an assistant, as he's at the bottom of the lowest ranks in the army. Dariel denies it, but they make it clear that he is fired because of his inability to use magic. He must have felt really bad there. Bashverza is really good at using fire magic, but Dariel mentions that their old king, who was their father, gave him a mission to complete. But Bashverza interrupts him and says they don't need someone who can't use magic in the new Demon King's regime. For a long time, demons and humans have been in fights, but the tricky part is they look the same. The only real difference is that demons can use magic, and this guy can't, even though he's a demon. So he's basically a human just with horns. Dariel leaves the headquarters, and one of his commanders teases him for being the weakest. After leaving, Dariel wanders around in a forest, not knowing what to do with his life. He has served in the Demon King's army for 32 years and wonders if he can even start a new life now. He is hungry and hasn't eaten since he was kicked out. He collapses from exhaustion and frustration. Then he hears a noise. When Dariel notices something on the cliff, Marika suddenly comes out of the bushes and jumps over him. Their eyes meet, and soon after that, a loud, scary roar comes from a huge silver monkey that appears and goes after Marika. Dariel steps in to protect her and tells her to get out of the way. He wants to fight the monkey even without powers, but hunger makes his legs give out, and the monkey hits him hard. He finds a dagger near Marika's things and hesitates to use it because it isn't something a demon soldier should do using a human weapon. But he changes his mind and hits the monkey when it attacks again. The monkey passes away on the spot and Marika thanks him, calling him the strongest hero of all time. Marika calmly puts her stuff back in her bag. Dariel wants to leave the situation to avoid any further problem, but Marika grabs his cloak, which makes it hard for him to breathe. She asks him to stay and invites him to her village to thank him with a tasty meal. So now he's getting treats from humans. I don't know if it's gonna be good or bad for him though. The idea of food makes him stop resisting, and his hungry stomach growls loudly, so he can't pretend he's not hungry. They walk towards the village, looking forward to a good meal and a new beginning. He's about to embark on a whole new adventure, one that will hopefully involve a lot of food. Moments later, they reach Marika's hometown. She brings him into her house and introduces him to her parents. Dariel makes sure to remember their names but starts to worry because he's in human territory. He suspects they might harm him if they find out he's a demon, so he reminds himself to be cautious. Marika asks why he was in the forest, and he explains that he lost his job when the new boss took over. The job also provided him with a place to stay, so now he's homeless. Marika is already in tears hearing his story and offers him a place to stay in their village, even giving him a room in their house. Dariel thinks it's too much, as the promised meal should be enough, but she insists. She asks her dad for permission, and after some thought, he agrees, mentioning that the village needs someone who can defeat monsters. He's not sure if he can trust them, but he's also not sure where else to go. Dariel feels that the family should be more suspicious since he's a stranger. Marika insists him to stay, but Dariel is conflicted because they are motel enemies. However, he decides to take the risk as he has no other place to go and stay after looking at Marika. That night, he lies in bed, comparing his current room to the grand room he had back in the Demon King's castle. Marika interrupts his thoughts, thanking him again for saving her. She's used to helping others, so being saved felt nice for a change. After her heartfelt words, she wishes him good night and goes to bed. The next morning, Marika's father Envel tells Dariel that he has a job for him. He wants Dariel to become an adventurer, which involves defeating monsters and gathering items. Dariel tries to dodge this by suggesting other jobs like farming, but Envel insists, revealing that he's the guild master of the village. Dariel is worried because the adventurer registration is a ritual only humans can pass. To avoid revealing his true identity as a demon, he pretends to be injured. Marika pricks his hand with a needle to draw blood and guides his hand to the registration form. He starts to panic as the form reacts to his blood, and magic signs glow purple, but they soon turn yellow as they dissolve and create a seal on the back of his hand. Dariel is shocked because he always thought he was a demon, having been raised by them. With the registration complete, Envel takes him outside to begin his new role as an adventurer. Moving on to the next phase, Marika warns Dariel that her father used to be an adventurer, so he should be careful. They watch her father skillfully swinging a giant hammer. He begins by explaining the concept of aura, a power all humans possess. Adventurers can use aura with their armor in battle. He tells Dariel to choose any weapon, and Dariel picks a sword. As he holds it, he feels his aura coming out, remembering how his adopted father taught him mental training to be aware of his magic, even though he didn't feel anything then. They move on to determine his aura type, with 4 options: slash, sting, hit, and block. Marika encourages him as they start with the slash test, even though this is his first time holding a sword. He takes a swing and cuts a tree trunk in 2 with ease, surprising everyone. They move on to the sting test, where he hits an apple from a distance with incredible power. Marika hugs him in excitement. Next is the hit test, where he easily destroys a rock and even knocks the guildmaster back. The last test is to block, and the guildmaster, Envel, feeling jealous of Dariel's talent, attacks him with an iron hammer while Dariel uses a wooden shield. Dariel blocks the attack and sends the guildmaster flying. After all the tests, they conclude that Dariel's aura fits every aspect perfectly. Dariel is surprised by how rare it is since he couldn't use magic and was used to being seen as weak. Envel suggests that Dariel joins the Central Guild, a prestigious organization every adventurer aspires to join. He promises to give Dariel a reference letter to support his recruitment. However, Dariel sees that Marika is sad at the thought of him leaving, so he decides to stay and serve the village since they gave him a place to live when he was homeless. This makes Marika very happy, and she hugs him. Envel, who is also the village chief, gathers the villagers and officially introduces Dariel as their newest member and adventurer. Dariel looks forward to starting his second life with excitement. Envel further adds that if they have any problems, they can report to the newcomer for assistance. Dariel introduces himself, and people are pleased with his politeness because they were initially worried about an outsider being their adventurer. However, Gashida doesn't like the new guy and thinks Dariel is too old to be an adventurer. This offends Dariel a bit because he doesn't feel old. Envel tells Gashida to stop being rude to his new companion and explains that Gashida is arrogant because he's the only adventurer in the village, so he thinks he's unique. Later, Envel summons Dariel to his office and gives him several requests to gather herbs that have piled up because Gashida thinks it's not too important to take them. Envel warns Dariel to be careful of a violent beast that a senior adventurer has been trying to defeat for about half a month. When they see the poster, they're shocked to realize it's the monkey Dariel defeated earlier. Envel is even more surprised when they inform him. On a later date, some adventurers come across the monkey monster's corpse. Chief Envel gets a report confirming Dariel's successful extermination of the monster. He marks the contract as complete and scolds Gashida for slacking off, which allows Dariel to take down the monster. Envel tells Gashida to thank Dariel, and Gashida unwillingly does so, though he's clearly frustrated. Dariel is aware that this incident is going to cause a problem between the two of them. He quickly picks up the next small monster contract and notices that Dariel has the contracts for her gathering. He mocks Dariel for doing low-level quests and leaves, declaring he'll prove he's better. To add insult to injury, he calls Dariel an old recruit. As Dariel alerts Envel of his departure, the guild master stops him for a moment. He takes Dariel's hand, which activates his rank, and then covers it. Dariel winces briefly before Envel reveals that he has been promoted to a D-rank adventurer as a reward for defeating the monkey and protecting the village. Marika interrupts and thanks Dariel for waiting for her. Dariel informs her that she doesn't need to follow him on the quest, but Marika insists because he's new and doesn't know the area well. She explains that she wanted to be an adventurer in the past to help her village. They set off, and Dariel still expresses his concern for her safety since it's dangerous outside the village. Marika reassures him, mentioning that some villagers also enter the forest, but they only command adventurers to go to the deep parts with dangerous monsters. This explains why Marika was brave enough to venture deep into the forest. She reveals that an old lady, Ishida, got sick, and she refused to go get the herb, so Marika had to do it herself. They reach the top of a cliff, and Marika asks if they can hold hands so they don't get separated. Dariel is initially reluctant because he's a loner, but he agrees. They proceed hand in hand and reach the area where the target herbs grow. Dariel starts picking them based on the picture on the contract, but Marika notices that he's picking the wrong type with sharp edges. She teaches him the proper way to harvest sustainably and blushes when he thanks her. As they continue, Marika casually identifies tree trunks and spots animal tracks that most adventurers wouldn't notice. Dariel asks her why she didn't handle the monkey when it attacked, and she admits she's scared of fighting. She wants him to stop referring to her formally, but he struggles to address her casually. She hugs him tightly, calling him mean for not following her request. Dariel accidentally spots a deer, but it becomes hostile and fights a nearby monster. They draw their swords to attack the creatures while they're distracted. They defeat the deer, the monster, and bring the carcasses back to the village. Dariel tries to downplay their achievement but runs off crying, leaving the contract behind. As days go by, Dariel gets used to life in the village without many problems. One day, he meets Gashida, who tries to bump into him but fails. Dariel offers to help him up, but Gashida angrily declines. Dariel heads to the guild hall, where Marika warmly greets him and offers food. He brushes past her and informs Envil that he has finished collecting all the herb-gathering requests. Envil is worried about Gashida, who's having a hard time because Dariel took his targets twice. Dariel expresses his regret, but Marika feels it's not his fault, as it's common sense to hunt monsters when possible. Envil agrees that adventurers from the same guild should cooperate, but there's a bigger concern. He presents an emergency contract for a monster called the Blaze Death Scythe, only available to C-rank adventurers or higher. It's far more dangerous than the previous contracts. Dariel explains that the circular was sent as a warning to the village, and adventurers from a higher-ranking guild in the next village will handle it. However, Envil wants to make sure Gashida doesn't get involved, even though he's only a D rank. He assures them that the neighboring guild has surrounded the monster, so it shouldn't come near them. Marika worries that Gashida might still go to the dangerous area, which would be a problem for the guild master if things go wrong. Dariel offers to keep an eye on Gashida to prevent him from doing something foolish. Marika wants to go along, but he declines because this mission is much more dangerous. Although she's disappointed, she prepares supplies and medicine just in case he encounters the monster snake. He sets off, and while he looks for Gashida, the weather starts getting worse, matching his uneasy feeling. Back when he was in the Demon King's army, he often regretted ignoring this feeling, and it seems like it was right again. He reaches a clearing in the woods created by the snake and wonders what happened to the large group that was supposed to keep the snake in check. Suddenly, the ground shakes behind him as he is seen running toward him, chased by the snake. The monster's roar forces Dariel to activate his shield. Looking at the situation, he has no other choice but to engage the serpent. He draws his sword and activates his aura, but the monster only focuses on attacking. Gashida, standing his ground with his arrows, can't do much damage because they lack enough aura. He stands there, frozen in fear as the snake closes in to finish him off. Dariel springs into action, launching himself into the air to stop the monster's attack. Gashida notices his huge aura as he slashes the snake in the eye. Dariel inflicts enough damage to stop the attack on his companion. The snake retaliates with a powerful tail attack, but Dariel activates his shield, blocking it and even using his sword to support against the force. However, the basic blade shatters into many fragments due to the pressure of the attack. Sensing an opportunity to finish him off, the snake rushes toward Dariel with its mouth wide open, ready to devour him like a giant machine. But Dariel remains calm, assessing the situation and thinking of the right technique to counter it. He decides to use both hit and sting techniques, grabbing the tip of his broken blade. He fires his improvised attack into the monster's mouth. Gashida watches in surprise as the blow pierces through the snake, clearing trees in its path. The snake lies defeated just as the rain starts to fall. The young lad can't believe that Dariel managed to defeat it, even though it outranks him. Dariel sits down to catch his breath after the challenging battle, but his break is short-lived as Gashida winces in pain from the snakebite. Dariel quickly moves him under a tree to shelter him from the rain. Gashida begins to cry, fearing for his life. Dariel washes his wound and gives him an antidote that Marika had prepared in anticipation of this incident. He assures Gashida that he won't die and uses an herb from the forest floor, squeezing its juices onto the wound, placing the leaves on it, and bandaging it with his sleeve. Curious about how he knows all of this, Gashida asks, and Dariel explains that Marika taught him a lot about different plants and their uses during their herb-gathering missions. After some wise words from Dariel, Gashida starts to cry, feeling guilty and ashamed of his behavior. The rain stops. As the sun starts to shine again, possibly a metaphor for the change that Gashida has undergone, Dariel finally decides to lie down for a moment before they make their way back to the village. The following morning, Marika prepares a meal for the family to enjoy. They are interrupted by Gashida, who now calls Dariel Big Brother and treats him with respect due to their recent suffering. The guild master is surprised by this sudden change in attitude, and Marika starts to feel a bit jealous of the attention Gashida is giving Dariel. Meanwhile, Dariel wonders how the four kings are managing their fight against the human heroes. The story shifts to the Demon King's army HQ, where one of the king's subordinates returns injured after a defeat at the hands of an unknown spear-wielding hero. She explains the situation to the other three kings and blames the lack of intelligence for her defeat. They decide to fire the current assistant for their incompetence. Delroy suggests rehiring Dariel, praising his past performance and the personal help he provided. She starts to blush as she remembers the things Dariel did for her, while his brother Bashabaza is furious that Dariel's name was brought up again and refuses to admit he made the wrong decision. Back in the village, Dariel is preparing to leave for another gathering mission. His colleague seeks his attention, which he finds a bit annoying, but he prefers this treatment to Gashida's previous unfriendliness. After a long day of hunting, he returns in the evening, and Marika rushes out to welcome him back. However, due to her super strength, she accidentally knocks him back along the ground, causing him to bleed from his nose and mouth. Dariel has noticed that her actions have been rising each day, but he's still enjoying his second life. Later that night, a bandaged Dariel has a hot drink with the chief and guild master of the village. He asks about the empty houses in the village. Envil warns him that it's going to be a long story before calling Marika to bring in the map, but she doesn't respond. Dariel checks on her and finds her feeling guilty because she lost control and hurt him earlier. He comforts her that it was an accident, easing her guilt. Marika quickly gets the map, and Envil begins to explain that the neglected houses are leftovers of a time when the village was full of life. Beyond the village lies the most important site for humans, the mithril mine. Mithril is a metal with unique properties, and weapons made from it perform exceptionally well. Dariel notes that even the demon's treasure is mithril because it can be crafted into magical tools that store mana. The chief continues, explaining that the material's value has led to centuries of battles over the mine. The village used to be a stopover for mithril transport and became a busy town. However, when Envil was a child, the demons took control of the precious mine. Despite attempts to retake it, the humans consistently failed, leading to the demise of the mining trade. The village began to suffer, and the chief feels that the village is slowly destined to die. Dariel lies in bed, contemplating the mine. He decides to visit it soon, as it was his former workplace. And that's where today's story ends. To know what happens next, comment down below and we'll see you in the next one.